right, we got a bit of a different setup here today. So, hi folks, I have a cool thing to share with you, or at least I think it's pretty cool. So the time has come to replace my Kindle. I got this secondhand from my dad. It is about 9 years old, and it hasn't fully died yet, but it like I can still turn it on and stuff, but like I really can't read stuff on it anymore. It force restarts. It takes like 30 to a whole minute for a single page to turn. It's lived a good life. And fortuitously, I was watching, at the time that I'm filming this, the most recent video from Bookmarks and Bookshelves. They are, she is a small YouTuber who pretty much just does book hauls. But she mentioned she had found this. I don't remember if I have the exact same model by her, but it's a European e-reader. It's ONYX Boox, Boox, and this is the model Poke 3. And they have a bunch of 6-inch e-readers that are these guys, and then 10-inch readers. So she mentioned she had found it. It's an Android-based tablet, which means I can read from the Kindle app, the Kobo app. I can get books from Libby. I can download copies of books directly to this. I can read all of my ebooks, and I am not locked into Kindle, or I'm not locked into Kobo. I don't have to worry about DRM or different file formats or whatever. All of it is on one device. I can also listen to audiobooks on this. It is digital ink, which is really what I wanted, because my only other option for not being locked into a Kindle device was to read on my phone or read on a tablet. Which, the issue I have with that is I definitely notice that the backlight of digital devices dries out my eyes, and it's harder to read in the sun if I'm reading on the beach or just outside or something. So I personally really wanted digital ink. I was looking at this thing, I was looking up reviews, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna go for it. I'm gonna try it. It's according to the packaging, it's clearly a Chinese manufacturer. It's shipped out of Russia, but it got here in like 4, maybe 5 days. Okay, so before I get too ahead of myself, I'm gonna link Bookmarks and Bookshelves in the description box. Her video, she just mentioned that she had it, but I gotta give her a shout out. You like book hauls, go check her out. I'm also gonna link 2 videos that are like digital tech review channels that had very in-depth reviews about the Boox devices. They not only talk about the Poke 2 and the Poke 3, but they also compare it to other devices from this manufacturer. They have some that do color, and they have 10-inch ones that also have a note-taking capability. So if you like your tablet or your e-reader for reading color graphic novels, or you want to be able to take notes on it, they have other models that do stuff like that. So I'm going to link those 2 channels because they really go in depth about comparing the different models and just a whole bunch of other tech specs that I'm just not really going to go into. I'm mainly talking about this, comparing it to my Kindle and what I wanted out of an e-reader. So at the time that I bought this, I think this model was not on sale. This guy, the Poke 3, was $189, and I paid $40 in shipping. So I think comparable to similar models in Kindle, it's a little bit more expensive, but I'm not locked into Kindle books. So let's go through a couple other things. So my first critique, though, let me boot this up. It's got one little power button on top. You'll see this in real time. Excuse my notebook over here. From full sleep, it does take a hot minute to boot up. It's not just loading a library. You can see the difference in time. It's loading a full-on operating system. You can see the little load bar here. So that's my first little critique, is from full sleep, it takes longer to boot up. And the other thing is from full sleep, as opposed to standby mode, from full sleep, it'll take you to your home page. It will not take you back into the last book you were reading. But at the very least, I can choose my home page. So the default, I don't think I can zoom you in anymore, but maybe you'll be able to see this. So down here, I've got library, store, storage, apps, and settings. So the default when I installed this was to go to library. And these are all the books that are installed directly onto the device or downloaded from their store. I decided to change my homepage to apps because I am most likely going to be using the Kindle app and the Kobo app and the Libby app. Okay, now getting back into my actual notes. So I mentioned I have Kindle, Kobo, and Libby. I noticed they also have Hoopla, Scribd, Audible, Goodreads. I was not able to find Overdrive. I was also not able to find Libro FM or My Must Reads. So in terms of Libro FM and My Must Reads, that means that like some of the more independent apps might not be available on here. I also saw a couple of like comics, graphic novel apps on here. So it's not going to cover absolutely everything, but it's got quite a lot of options. Let's see, it does have a backlight option. Let's see, come on. So I can make it have kind of, I don't know if you'll be able to see it. There we go, a warm backlight, cool backlight. There's quite a bit of like delay and drag on the touch screen. I don't know, were you able to pick that? Yeah, you can see that kind of ghosting. I think some of that I can play around with in the settings. I'm just gonna have to poke at stuff and see how much we can do. I can fuss with that. But again, I'm comparing it to my existing Kindle, which had a bit of, you know, an e-ink delay and stuff. So I'm compared to what I had, it's not worse. So I'm happy. Let's see, it has Wi-Fi, it has Bluetooth, so you can connect it to headphones or like a Bluetooth keyboard or something. So the little ones, I should mention, do not have a stylus note-taking capability like their large ones do, but I can use a stylus tip to poke at stuff if you should have need of that. It has a web browser option, which here's another critique. You kind of need to give it a firm touch. I just need to get used to it. It's fine. So I don't think I'm going to be using the browser option 2 option, but it would be useful if you want to download manuals or PDFs or instructions and then have it on an e-reader device. It came with like a little setup manual, but not a manual about how to use the interface. But the home page on the web browser takes you to this newsroom that's like how to activate Google Play, where can I download the user manual, how can I add fonts. So with a little bit of poking around, you can find most everything that you want to look at. Another downside is there's not a lot of protective case options, especially like there's lots of like little pockets on Etsy and stuff, and then there's one case on Amazon. It's a pretty nice looking case. I've ordered it. I'll see how it goes. But if you find like another cover or you want to make something and you want it to auto sleep, if you touch a magnet to the bottom here where the logo is, it'll put it into standby mode. Another thing to note that I have tested is when I'm reading in the Kindle app, it does sync my notes and highlights with my Goodreads app. That was just another thing I wanted to make sure. I didn't want to make sure I could do it, but it's really nice that it's able to do that, because I use those notes quite a bit from my library books when I'm working on my wrap-ups. Let's see. Another thing to note, we have this little navigation ball. Okay, I need to play with the menu because that delay hasn't always been there, but I have been playing around with some settings, so I need to go look at that. This is a little quick menu. I don't know if you can really, let's see. yeah, you can see these little guys that came up. So right now, I have back, page refresh, app settings, and what is this? This is like open apps view. And then if I double tap, hold on, it'll take me back to my home screen. You do not need to have this navigation ball. You can do away with it entirely. It has about 6 slots and you can customize what's on there. Most every action that is on there, you can find somewhere else. For example, if you swipe up from the center, that should take you back to home. Right now I have it set that swipe in the right corner is back. And then I'm sorry if you keep hearing a little swiping motion. It's the buttons on my shirt. Swipe down to get into settings. Here we've got volume, lights, Wi-Fi, screencast is an option. Anyway. So, anyway, that's a feature. Let's see. I've got a couple other little critiques. Actually, let me see if I can show you. So here's my Kindle, and you can see I tapped into this book I'm reading. It took quite a bit to log in. I'm trying to turn a page. It's not turning, not turning. Let's try again. Okay, there it goes. I didn't count how long that was, but you can see it's just not really reacting in a way that makes it readable. It's not the memory. It's only about 1/3 of the way full. Oh, another thing to know. This is 32 gigs. The Boox, or I should say the Poke 3 is 32 gigs. I think this was only like 1 gig. I will put a little note about what size this is in comparison. If you're looking at something specifically like this, I think the only difference between the Poke 2 and the Poke 3 is the charger. I think Poke 2 is whatever the like geometric, I forget what it is. It's like USB something. You probably won't really be able to see this. Oh, there you go, a little bit. So this is now USB-C, which is what my phone is and is what the newest charger shape is. So I went ahead and paid a little bit more for the Poke 3 to have the newer charger as everything else gets phased out. But if you could probably save a little bit of money by doing the Poke 2 and just having the older charger model. Okay. I've got a couple more notes about other little critique things. So screen size between these two is actually quite similar. I think this one is a tiny, tiny bit smaller. But let's see if I go into Kindle. You can see that because I'm in the Kindle app, it's got additional margins to it than my regular Kindle. But with my font option, the text is also more dense. So I haven't done a comparison for like word count. Excuse me, phone. I haven't done a comparison for word count, but that's something to note is that like because you're in an app, the text won't go size to size, but you can still adjust the font size and stuff. So I'm not too mad about it. I need to play around with settings, but I have noticed that I get a little bit of image ghosting. Anyway, so if I go into a menu, I'm looking at all these images. I go in here, it shows the cover. Ooh, I do not know if you'll be able to see that. But I can see a little bit of residual gray color from the first library, from my home library, and from the cover. And that's not something I ever saw in this. And there are options for like page refresh and stuff, so I might just need to play around with those settings. But right now, the easiest option, I go into my quick menu, I hit page refresh, and that ghosting goes away. But that's something to note if that's something that is going to bother you. In terms of the interface, it's Android based, so I felt like things were quite intuitive for me. So just like pulling down the menu and swiping up for stuff. And in the browser, I mentioned that it'll take you to a place to download the manual, but that's not spelled out in any of the paperwork that comes in the box. So if you are not used to Android, or you are less technologically confident, you might want to like look up like how to get the manual or some tips and tricks. I'm pretty comfortable just poking at buttons to see what they do. I've seen critiques that like the interface is not super intuitive and super smooth. I have been able to find a setting for anything that I want a setting for. I just have to kind of dig around for it a little bit. So, okay. I mentioned that like buttons and stuff just kind of need a firm touch. That's just something I need to get used to. Let's see, you can also clear your open applications and it'll take you back to the home screen. I mentioned there's not a lot of case options, and I mentioned that it takes a minute to boot up, and from full off mode, it'll come to your home screen, not the last book you were reading. Couple of little critiques, but really I'm nitpicking because it is everything I wanted. Excuse me. Yeah, to be able to read my library books, my Kindle books. I've got a couple of Kobo books. You know what? I turned this off and look, it's forced restarting itself after I just told it to turn off. R.I.P. Kindle. I'm super fucking happy with this. I doubt it's going to last as long as this one did, which is about 9 years, but I hope it'll last a good long time. Let me know if you've heard of this kind of thing, if this is something that interests you. If you have any questions of something I didn't cover, feel free to leave them in the description box below. I'm also going to remind you about the very in-depth tech review videos that are going to be in the description box. I won't guarantee that I will know the answer to your question or that you're going to be asking about a feature that I would use, but I'm thinking about maybe in like 6 months or a year making a little follow-up video, seeing if I'm still as happy with this as I am now, and I could keep your questions in mind as I work on that video in the future. Yeah, anyway, this is cool. I'm glad to find it. I want more people to know that there is a non-Kindle option that'll let you still read your Kindle books that's digital ink. Anyway, all right. I hope you enjoyed this video or found it informative, and I will catch y'all in my next video. Bye!